My son showed me a video from my fiancée's bachelorette party. 7 seconds that destroyed my future wedding, but saved my entire life. What I found in those seconds wasn't just betrayal. It was proof I'd been played from the start. And I had one clause that would make her regret everything. My name is Owen Hayes. I'm 44 years old, and I've spent the last 12 years managing IT projects for a tech firm in Austin, Texas. I've got a 16-year-old son, Dylan, from my first marriage. Kid's got his mother's stubbornness and my tendency to see patterns where others see chaos. That gift saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. It was a Thursday night, around 9:30. I was sitting at my home office desk, reviewing project timelines for a client rollout, when my phone buzzed. Text from Dylan. "Dad, we need to talk. Now." I went downstairs to find him in the kitchen, laptop open on the counter. His face was pale, jaw tight. He looked like he just watched someone get hit by a car. "What's going on?" I asked, immediately on alert. Dylan doesn't scare easily. He turned the laptop toward me without a word. On the screen was a video, shaky phone footage from what looked like a club. Strobe lights, loud music, women dancing. Then the camera panned, and I saw her. Rachel, my fiancée, wearing that white dress she'd posted on Instagram 3 hours earlier with the caption, "Last night of freedom with my girls." She wasn't dancing with her girls. She was in a corner booth, curled up in some guy's lap. His hands were on her waist, sliding lower. Her fingers traced his jawline like she'd done 1,000 times before. Then she leaned in, and they kissed. Not a drunk peck. A real kiss. The kind that tells you this wasn't the first time. "Keep watching," Dylan said quietly, his voice steady, but I could hear the anger underneath. The camera zoomed slightly. I could see the guy's face now. My stomach dropped. Trevor Langley, Rachel's ex-husband, Emma's father. The man Rachel swore she hadn't spoken to in over 3 years. Someone off-camera shouted, loud enough to be heard over the music. "It's her last free night. Let her enjoy it." Rachel pulled back from the kiss and smiled. Not embarrassed. Not guilty. Just smiled. I didn't say anything. Didn't throw the laptop. Didn't scream. I just stood there, watching my future dissolve in a 15-second video clip while my son watched me, waiting to see if his old man would fall apart. Instead, I walked to my office, pulled out the filing cabinet, and retrieved a folder I'd hoped I'd never need. The label read, "Contingency Plan, Langley." Dylan followed me. "Dad, I'm sorry. I was working the catering shift at that venue tonight. I saw it happen live. I could not tell you." I looked at my son, this kid who just had to grow up a little faster because his future stepmother couldn't keep her hands off her ex-husband at her own bachelorette party. "You did the right thing," I told him, opening the folder. Inside were documents I'd spent months preparing with my attorney, Stephen Garrett. Prenuptial agreement, property deed, transfer forms, cohabitation clause with subsection 7.4b highlighted in yellow. Dylan looked at the papers, then at me. "What is all this?" "Insurance," I said, against making the same mistake twice. I picked up my phone and texted Stephen, "Need you tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. She triggered the clause. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "I'll bring the notary." "You sure?" I glanced at the laptop screen, frozen on Rachel's smile. "Positive," I typed back. Dylan sat down across from me. "What happens now?" I looked at my son, at the concern in his eyes, and felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak, not rage, just cold, absolute clarity. "Now," I said, closing the folder, "now we let karma do what it does best. We just have to make sure it has all the documentation it needs." After my first marriage ended, I swore I'd never be that vulnerable again. Michelle, my ex-wife, had an affair with her tennis instructor. Classic story. I came home early from a business trip and found them in her bed. The divorce took 18 months, cost me $70,000 in legal fees, and left me with nothing but my clothes and a mountain of debt because I'd been too trusting to protect myself. I spent the next year rebuilding. Not just financially, but mentally. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in helping people recover from infidelity. Dr. Patricia Coleman. She's the one who told me something I'll never forget. "Owen, you can't control whether someone betrays you, but you can control how prepared you are when they do." That's when I met Stephen Garrett at a networking event. We'd gone to college together, lost touch after graduation. He was a family law attorney now, sharp as a blade and twice as effective. Over drinks one night, I told him my story. He listened, didn't judge, and then said, "Let me help you build a safety net. Not because you're cynical, but because you're smart." We spent weeks crafting the prenuptial agreement. It wasn't about being cold or calculating. It was about clarity. Clause 7.4b was Stephen's idea, but I refined the language. It stated simply, if documented infidelity occurred before the marriage certificate was filed, all jointly held assets would default to the person who provided the original capital. Any rights to shared ownership would be nullified within 72 hours of confirmed breach. When I met Rachel 2 years ago, I didn't tell her about the prenup right away. We dated for 8 months before I even mentioned marriage. She was different from Michelle. Organized, independent, a marketing director at a pharmaceutical company. She had her own money, her own life. I thought maybe this time would be different. When we got engaged, I brought out the prenup. We were sitting at her kitchen table, wedding magazines spread everywhere. I slid the folder across to her. "What's this?" Rachel asked, opening it. "A prenuptial agreement," I said. "I need you to read it carefully. Take your time. Have a lawyer look at it if you want." She flipped through the pages, her expression unreadable. When she got to clause 7.4b, she paused. "Infidelity termination," she read aloud. "Owen, this is pretty intense." "I know," I said, "but I need this. It's not about you. It's about protecting myself from what happened before." Rachel set the papers down and looked at me. "You really think I'd cheat on you?" "I didn't think Michelle would either," I replied. "But she did. So now I plan differently." She was quiet for a moment, then picked up a pen. "Okay, I get it. You've been burned before. I can respect that." She signed every page without calling a lawyer, without asking questions. At the time, I thought it meant she had nothing to hide. Now, looking at that video of her with Trevor, I realized she just never thought she'd get caught. I sat in my office until almost midnight, reviewing every document in the contingency folder. Property deed for the townhouse we'd bought together 6 months ago. I'd put down the entire down payment, $85,000, while Rachel contributed to the monthly mortgage. The quitclaim deed she'd signed during escrow, buried in a stack of closing documents, gave me the right to reclaim full ownership if the prenup was triggered. Bank statements showing I'd paid for the wedding venue deposit, the caterer, the photographer. Rachel had handled the smaller details, flowers, invitations, her dress. Nothing that couldn't be canceled or absorbed. Dylan knocked on my door around 11:30. "Dad, you should get some sleep." "I will," I said. "Soon." "Is this really happening?" he asked. "You're calling off the wedding?" I looked at my son, this young man who'd just seen his father's fiancée destroy their future, and I nodded. "Yeah, Dylan, it's really happening. Tomorrow morning, Rachel's going to learn that actions have consequences, and they're going to hit fast." Rachel came home at 6:15 in the morning. I heard her key in the lock, the stumbling footsteps in the hallway, the soft curse when she bumped into the console table. I was already awake, sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee I hadn't touched, watching the sunrise through the window. She appeared in the doorway, still wearing that white dress, now wrinkled and stained with what looked like spilled wine. Her makeup was smeared, mascara creating dark shadows under her eyes. She was carrying her heels in one hand, a half-empty bottle of champagne in the other. When she saw me, she smiled. Not guilty, not apologetic, just tired and happy, like she'd had a great night. "Hey, babe," Rachel said, her voice thick with alcohol. "You're up early. I didn't think you'd be awake yet." I didn't respond, just watched her. She set the champagne bottle on the counter and walked toward the coffee maker. "God, last night was crazy. The girls went absolutely wild. You should have seen Melissa trying to do karaoke. She was so bad it was actually good, you know." "Sit down, Rachel," I said quietly. She turned, confused by my tone. "What's wrong?" "Sit down." Something in my voice made her pause. She pulled out a chair across from me and sat, still holding her shoes. "Owen, what's going on? You're scaring me." I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. The video was already queued up, frozen on the frame where she was kissing Trevor, his hands in her dress, her fingers in his hair. Rachel's face went white. The shoes dropped from her hand and clattered on the floor. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "Dylan," I said. "He was working catering at the venue last night. He saw everything, recorded it to make sure I believe him." She reached for the laptop, but I closed it before she could touch it. "Owen, wait. That's not what it looks like." Really? I asked, my voice still calm. Because it looks like you were cheating on me with your ex-husband at your bachelorette party. The same ex-husband you told me you hadn't spoken to in 3 years. I can explain, Rachel said, her words tumbling over each other. Trevor showed up. I didn't invite him. He just appeared and started talking about Emma and how much he missed being a family, and I was drunk, and it was stupid, but it didn't mean anything. Owen, I swear it didn't mean anything. I stood up slowly, walked to the counter, and picked up the folder I prepared last night. I set it down in front of her. What's this? Rachel asked, her hand shaking. Your copy of the prenuptial agreement, I said. Specifically, Clause 7.4b, the one you signed 6 months ago. Read it again. She opened the folder with trembling fingers. I watched her eyes scan the page, watched the exact moment she understood what was about to happen. The color drained from her face completely. No, she said. No. Owen, you can't do this. We're getting married in 11 days. Everything's paid for. Everyone's flying in. You can't just cancel everything because of one mistake. I'm not canceling anything, I said. The wedding's off. But more importantly, as of 8 o'clock this morning, when Stephen gets here with a notary, so is your name on the deed to this house. Rachel stood up, so fast her chair fell backward. This is our house. I've been paying the mortgage for 6 months. You've been paying half a mortgage on a house I bought with my money. I corrected. The down payment was $85,000. All mine. You signed a quitclaim deed during escrow that reverts full ownership to me if the prenup is violated. You violated it. The house is mine. You planned this, she said, her voice rising. You had this all set up like you were waiting for me to mess up. No, Rachel, I said. I planned for the possibility that you'd be exactly who you turn out to be. There's a difference. She grabbed the folder and threw it across the kitchen. Papers scattered everywhere. I made one mistake, one night, and you're going to destroy everything over it. You made a choice, I said, my voice finally rising to match hers. You chose to get drunk and kiss your ex-husband while wearing a dress that says bride-to-be. You chose to let him touch you. You chose to smile when someone said it was your last free night. Those weren't mistakes, Rachel. Those were decisions. She stared at me, breathing hard, and I saw it then. Not remorse. Not love. Just anger that she'd been caught. Stephen will be here in 90 minutes, I said. I suggest you start packing. Stephen Garrett arrived at exactly 8 o'clock, briefcase in hand, a woman in a gray suit beside him. The notary. Her name was Patricia Wells, according to the ID badge clipped to her jacket. She carried a leather portfolio and wore the expression of someone who'd seen this scenario play out 100 times before. Rachel was still in the bedroom. I could hear her moving around up there, drawers opening and closing, the sound of things being thrown into bags. Dylan had left for school 20 minutes earlier, giving me a long hug before he walked out the door. You've got this, Dad, he'd said. I let Stephen and Patricia into the house. Stephen looked around at the scattered papers from Rachel's outburst earlier, the overturned chair, the champagne bottle still sitting on the counter. Rough morning? Stephen asked. She's upstairs packing, I said. She knows what's happening. She's just not accepting it yet. Patricia set her portfolio on the dining table and began arranging her materials. Stamps, seal, witness forms. Everything needed to make this official. Has she threatened legal action? Stephen asked. Not yet, I said, but I'm sure it's coming. Rachel appeared at the top of the stairs. She'd changed into jeans and a sweatshirt, washed off her makeup. She looked younger without it, more vulnerable. For a split second, I felt something twist in my chest. Then I remembered the video, and the feeling vanished. She came down slowly, gripping the railing like she might fall. Ms. Langley, Stephen said formally. I'm Stephen Garrett, Mr. Hayes' attorney. This is Patricia Wells, a licensed notary. We're here to execute the terms of the prenuptial agreement you signed on February 14th of this year. Rachel's eyes moved from Stephen to Patricia to me. Owen, please. Can we talk about this privately? Just you and me. No, I said. This is a legal proceeding now. Everything that needs to be said will be said here. Stephen opened his briefcase and pulled out a document. Ms. Langley, per Clause 7.4b of your prenuptial agreement, documented infidelity prior to the filing of a marriage certificate triggers immediate partition of jointly held assets. Do you understand what that means? I understand you're stealing my house, Rachel said bitterly. It was never your house, Stephen corrected. Mr. Hayes provided 100% of the down payment. You signed a contingent ownership agreement during escrow that clearly states your interest in the property is conditional upon the marriage proceeding as planned. The marriage is not proceeding. Therefore, your interest is void. This is insane, Rachel said, looking at me. Owen, we can work this out. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't do this. Sign the papers, Rachel, I said quietly. Patricia slid the first document across the table. This is a voluntary release of property interest. It states that you acknowledge the terms of the prenuptial agreement and relinquish any claim to the property at 847 Ridgewater Lane. Rachel didn't move. If you refuse to sign, Stephen said, his voice still calm, we'll file for emergency petition in court. The video evidence will be entered into the record. The prenup will be enforced. You'll lose anyway, but it'll take longer and cost you legal fees you can't afford. Rachel's hands clenched into fists. How do you know what I can afford? Because I know what you make, Stephen said. And I know your savings account balance is less than $4,000. You can't fight this, Ms. Langley. You can only choose how much it costs you. She looked at me one more time. I loved you. No, I said. You love the idea of me. The house, the stability, the wedding. But you didn't love me enough to keep your hands off Trevor. Rachel grabbed the pen and signed the document, so hard the paper tore slightly. Patricia witnessed it, stamped it, sealed it. Legal and binding. There's one more, Stephen said, sliding another form forward. This is acknowledgement that all wedding-related expenses paid by Mr. Hayes are non-recoverable. You have no claim to reimbursement. She signed that one too, tears finally starting to fall. Patricia gathered the documents, placed them in her portfolio, and nodded to Stephen. We're done here. Rachel stood up, wiping her eyes. I need a few days to find a place. You have until Sunday, I said. That's 48 hours. After that, I'm changing the locks. She walked toward the stairs, then stopped and turned back. You're going to regret this, Owen. When you're alone and miserable, you're going to wish you'd forgiven me. Maybe, I said, but I'll be alone in my own house, with my dignity intact. That's more than you'll have. She went upstairs without another word. Stephen packed his briefcase. The title office will process the updated deed by Monday. You'll receive confirmation within 5 business days. Thank you, I said. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, Owen, you handled this exactly right. Clean, quick, and legal. A lot of guys would have made this messy. I learned from the first time, I said. After they left, I stood in my living room in the house that was now solely mine and felt nothing. Not victory, not sadness, just quiet. Dylan texted me. Is it done? It's done. I wrote back. Good. She didn't deserve you, Dad. I sat down on the couch and finally let myself breathe. The wedding was off. The house was mine. Rachel will be gone by Sunday. Karma hadn't just hit fast. It had hit precisely. I spent Saturday morning calling vendors. First was the venue coordinator at Briar Hill Gardens, a woman named Jessica who'd been handling our wedding for the past 8 months. Mr. Hayes, she said when she picked up, her voice bright and cheerful. I hope you're calling with good news about the final head count. Actually, I'm calling to cancel the ceremony, I said. But I'd like to keep the venue booking for a private dinner instead. There was a pause. I'm sorry, did you say cancel? The wedding's off, I said. But people are already flying in, and I've already paid for the space. I'd like to convert it to a dinner for friends and family. Same date, same time. Just no ceremony. Another pause, longer this time. Mr. Hayes, I'm so sorry. Are you sure about this? Completely sure, I said. Can it be done? Yes, of course, Jessica said, her voice shifting to professional efficiency. We can remove the altar and ceremony chairs, keep the reception set up as is. The catering is already paid for. I'll adjust the timeline to skip straight to dinner service. Perfect, I said, and keep the flowers. I'm not petty. After I hung up, I sent a group text to the people who mattered. My parents, my brother, a few close friends had already booked flights. The message was simple. Wedding is off. Rachel and I have separated. Dinner at Briar Hill Gardens is still happening on the 14th, if you still want to come. I'll explain everything there. My phone started ringing immediately. My mother first. Owen, what happened? She asked. her voice filled with concern. Rachel cheated on me at her bachelorette party, I said plainly. Dylan caught it on video. I activated the prenup clause. She's moving out tomorrow. My mother was quiet for a moment. Are you okay, sweetheart? I'm fine, Mom, I said. Actually, I'm better than fine. I'm protected this time. Good, she said firmly. Then I'll be there on the 14th. And I'm bringing Aunt Linda. She always said there was something off about Rachel. The one call I dreaded was to Rachel's father, Bob. He'd always been good to me, treated me like the son he never had. I dialed his number and waited. He picked up on the third ring. Owen, what's going on? Rachel called me crying, but she wasn't making any sense. Bob, I need to tell you something, I said. I saw footage of Rachel with Trevor at her bachelorette party. They were together, intimately. I've canceled the wedding and executed the property separation clause in our prenup. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought he'd hung up. Trevor was there. Bob finally said, his voice tight. Yes, sir. And it wasn't just dancing. Dylan recorded it. Bob exhaled slowly. Do you need help with anything? Cancellations, vendors, anything. That caught me off guard. You're not going to defend her. Owen, I raised her better than this, he said quietly. If she did what you're saying, then she brought this on herself. I'm disappointed, but I'm not blind. Thank you, Bob, I said. Are you still having the dinner? He asked. Yes. People are already coming. I figured I'd rather have a good meal with people who actually care about me than let everything go to waste. Then I'll be there, Bob said. Someone needs to represent the family with dignity. After we hung up, I sat on my back deck and let myself process everything. In 48 hours, Rachel would be gone. The house would be mine. The wedding would be a memory. My phone buzzed with a text from Dylan. How the calls go? Better than expected. I wrote back. Your grandfather's coming to dinner. Cool. Can I bring a date? I smiled for the first time in 2 days. Yeah, kid. You can bring a date. Sunday afternoon, Rachel's mother showed up. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard the doorbell ring, followed by someone pounding on the door like they were trying to break it down. I opened it to find Linda Pruitt, Rachel's mother, standing on my porch with her arms crossed and murder in her eyes. Where's my daughter? She demanded. Upstairs packing, I said calmly. She has until 6 to be out. Linda pushed past me into the house. You have some nerve, Owen Hayes. Kicking her out of her own home over one little mistake. It's not her home, I said, closing the door. It's my home. She signed papers confirming that on Friday morning. Because you forced her to, Linda shouted. You manipulated her with your legal tricks and your threats. That's financial abuse, Owen. I could have you arrested. I pulled out my phone and opened a video. Is this what you call a little mistake? I held it up so she could see. Rachel and Trevor in that booth, kissing, his hands all over her. Linda watched for 3 seconds before turning away. Turn that off, she snapped. That's your daughter cheating on me with her ex-husband, I said. At her bachelorette party. The night before she was supposed to marry me. Still think I'm the bad guy. Linda's face flushed red. She was drunk. She didn't know what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing, I said. And she smiled about it. There's audio too. Want to hear the part where someone says it's her last free night? You're a controlling, vindictive man, Linda said, her voice shaking. You planned this from the beginning. You never loved her. You just wanted someone you could dominate. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I loved her enough to protect myself when she showed me who she really was. That's not control, Linda. That's called learning from experience. Rachel appeared at the top of the stairs with 2 suitcases. Mom, what are you doing here? I came to get you, Linda said. You don't have to stay here and be abused by this man. Abused, I said. I gave her 48 hours to pack her things and leave peacefully. I could have had the locks changed Friday night and put everything on the lawn. I showed her more courtesy than she showed me. Rachel came down the stairs slowly. Mom, just stop. Please. I'm not going to stop, Linda said. He's stealing your house, Rachel. He's humiliating you. We can fight this. We can get a lawyer and sue him for everything he's worth. On what grounds? I asked. She signed a legally binding prenuptial agreement. She violated it. The documents are already filed with county. You can hire every lawyer in Texas, and you'll still lose. Linda turned to Rachel. Tell him about the money. Rachel's face went pale. Mom, don't. Tell him, Linda insisted. I looked between them. Tell me what? Rachel set down her suitcases and wouldn't meet my eyes. I took some money. From our joint savings account. Before you froze it. How much? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. $43,000, Rachel whispered. The room went silent. I stared at her, trying to process what I just heard. You stole $43,000 from our account. I said slowly. It was my money too. Rachel said defensively. I contributed to that account. You contributed $8,000 over 6 months, I said. The rest was mine. Money I've been saving for years. And you stole it. Linda stepped between us. She didn't steal anything. It was a joint account. She had every right to withdraw money. Not after she violated the prenup, I said. I pulled out my phone and dialed Stephen's number. He picked up on the second ring. Stephen, I need you to file an emergency motion, I said, my eyes locked on Rachel. Rachel withdrew $43,000 from our joint savings account after the prenup was breached. I want it back, plus damages for theft and fraudulent transfer. Oh, and wait, Rachel said, panic in her voice now. Stephen's voice came through the phone. I can file tomorrow morning. Judge Patterson owes me a favor. We'll have a hearing by Wednesday. Do it, I said and hung up. Rachel started crying. I was scared. I didn't know where I was going to live or how I was going to pay rent. So you stole from me, I said, just like you cheated on me. When things got hard, you took the easy, dishonest way out. That's who you are, Rachel. Linda grabbed Rachel's arm. Come on, honey. We're leaving. Let him have his precious house. You're better off without him anyway. I opened the front door and stood beside it. You have 10 minutes to get the rest of your things. After that, I'm changing the locks whether you're done or not. They hauled bags to Linda's car in silence. On our last trip, Rachel stopped in the doorway. I hope you're happy, she said bitterly. You won. You got everything you wanted. No, I said. I got everything I paid for. There's a difference. I closed the door and locked it. Through the window, I watched them drive away. Then I called the locksmith. The lawsuit against Rachel moved faster than I expected. Stephen filed the emergency motion on Monday morning, and by Wednesday afternoon, we were in Judge Raymond's courtroom. Rachel showed up with a public defender, a young woman fresh out of law school who looked overwhelmed the moment Stephen laid out her evidence. Bank records, the signed prenup, the property release Rachel had signed on Friday, and the withdrawal timestamp showing she'd taken the money 3 hours after signing. Judge Raymond, a man in his late 50s with gray hair and a permanent scowl, reviewed the documents in silence. Then he looked at Rachel. Ms. Langley, did you or did you not withdraw $43,000 from a joint account after signing an agreement that froze shared assets? Rachel's lawyer started to speak, but the judge held up his hand. I asked Ms. Langley, he said. Rachel stood, her hand shaking. Yes, Your Honor, but I contributed to that account too. I thought I had a right to. You thought wrong. Judge Raymond interrupted. The agreement you signed clearly states that all joint financial assets were frozen pending final settlement. You violated that agreement. Motion granted. You have 10 business days to return the full amount, plus $6,500 in legal fees and court costs. Failure to comply will result in automatic wage garnishment. Next case. Outside the courthouse, Rachel's lawyer pulled me aside. Mr. Hayes, my client doesn't have that kind of money, she said quietly. Could we arrange a payment plan? Maybe $2,000 a month. No, I said. She stole from me. She pays it back in full, or her wages get garnished. Those are her options. That evening, Emma called me. Rachel's 13-year-old daughter. The girl I'd been planning to become a stepfather to. Owen, she said when I answered, her voice small and scared. Hey, Emma, I said, my chest tightening. Are you okay? Can I ask you something? She said. Why are you being so mean to my mom? I sat down on my couch, trying to find the right words. Emma, I'm not trying to be mean. Your mom made some choices that hurt me, and I'm protecting myself. Do you understand that? She said you're trying to ruin her life. Emma said. She's crying all the time. She says she might lose her job because of the garnishment thing. Emma, listen to me. I said carefully. Your mom took money that didn't belong to her. Money I've been saving for years. I asked her to return it, and she refused. What's happening now is the consequence of that choice. But you loved her, Emma said, and I could hear the tears in her voice. You said you'd be my stepdad. You promised we'd be a family. That hurt more than anything else in this whole mess. I did love her, Emma, I said quietly, and I meant what I said about being a family. But your mom broke that trust. Not me. She was quiet for a moment. Dylan told me what she did. At the party. He did. Yeah. We text sometimes. He showed me the video. Her voice got quieter. I didn't know she was still talking to my dad. She told me they hated each other. I'm sorry you had to find out that way, I said. Owen, I know my mom messed up, Emma said. But she's still my mom. Can you please just stop? Please. I closed my eyes. Emma, I can't. What she did wasn't just wrong, it was illegal. I have to see this through. She hung up without saying goodbye. Dylan came downstairs a few minutes later. Was that Emma? Yeah. She texted me, Dylan said, showing me his phone. Emma's message read, Your dad is destroying my family. I'm sorry, Dad, Dylan said. Don't be, I said. Rachel destroyed her own family. I'm just not letting her destroy mine too. October 14th arrived faster than I expected. The day that was supposed to be my wedding became something else entirely. I arrived at Briar Hill Gardens at 5:30, an hour before guests were scheduled to arrive. The terrace was set up beautifully, long tables with white linens, soft string lights overhead, flowers in simple glass vases. Everything looked exactly as it would have for the reception, just without the ceremony space. Jessica, the coordinator, met me at the entrance. Mr. Hayes, everything's ready. We removed all the wedding signage and the guest book table. It's just a dinner now, like you requested. Thank you, Jessica, I said. Dylan arrived with a girl I didn't recognize, pretty with dark hair and a shy smile. Dad, this is Kayla. Kayla, my dad. Nice to meet you, Mr. Hayes, she said. Call me Owen, I said, shaking her hand. And thank you for coming. Guests started arriving around 6:15. My parents, my brother Matt and his wife, Aunt Linda, a few friends from work, some college buddies I hadn't seen in years. People I actually cared about, not the inflated guest list Rachel had insisted on. And then Bob Pruitt walked in, alone, wearing a suit and carrying a bottle of bourbon. Owen, he said, shaking my hand firmly. Thank you for still having this. Thank you for coming, I said. Where else would I be? Bob said. My daughter made her choices. I'm here to show you that not everyone in her family lacks integrity. We sat down to dinner at 7. I stood up before the first course was served. I want to thank you all for being here, I said. I know this wasn't the event you were expecting, but life doesn't always go according to plan. What matters is having people around you who show up anyway. So thank you for being here, for supporting me, and for reminding me that family isn't just about blood. It's about who stands beside you when things fall apart. My mother raised her glass. To Owen. To strength, wisdom, and knowing when to walk away. Everyone drank. Bob stood up next. I'd like to say something, if I may. The table went quiet. I raised Rachel to be better than what she showed you, Bob said, his voice heavy. I taught her about honor, about keeping your word, about treating people with respect. Somewhere along the way, those lessons didn't stick. Owen, I'm sorry. Not just for what happened, but for not seeing the signs earlier. You deserve better. You still do. He raised his glass. To second chances. And to having the courage to demand what you're worth. The dinner lasted 3 hours. Good food, good conversation, laughter that felt genuine. No one mentioned Rachel by name. No one asked invasive questions. They just showed up and let me know I wasn't alone. Dylan and Kayla left around 9:30. My parents stayed until the end, helping me carry gifts people had brought anyway. Mostly bottles of whiskey and gift card with notes that said things like for your next chapter and to new beginnings. As I was walking to my car, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw the photos from tonight. You look happy. I'm glad you moved on so easily. Rachel. Of course. I deleted the message without responding and drove home. The house was quiet when I got there. Empty but mine. No boxes in the corner. No reminders of a future that never happened. Just space, clean and clear. I poured myself a glass of the bourbon Bob had given me and sat on the back deck, looking up at the stars. Somewhere in the city, Rachel was probably telling herself I was the villain in this story, that I'd overreacted, been too harsh, too cold. But I knew the truth. I protected myself. I demanded accountability. I'd walked away with my dignity intact, and that was worth more than any wedding could ever be. 3 weeks after the dinner, I got a call from a private investigator named Daniel Holloway. He'd been hired by Rachel's attorney to look into my finances, trying to find some angle to reduce what she owed me. What he found instead changed everything. Mr. Hayes, Daniel said when I met him at a coffee shop downtown. I need to show you something. I was hired to investigate you, but in the process, I discovered information about Rachel Langley that I believe you have a right to know. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were bank statements, text message logs, and photos I'd never seen before. Rachel has a second bank account, Daniel said, pointing to the statements. It's been active for 4 years. The current balance is $217,000. I stared at the number. Where did that money come from? Inheritance from her grandmother, plus proceeds from the sale of a condo she owned before you met, Daniel explained. She kept it completely separate and never disclosed it during your relationship. The text logs show she was planning to divorce you approximately 1 year after the wedding and claim half your assets while keeping this account hidden. I felt my blood run cold. She was planning this from the beginning. Not from the beginning, Daniel said, but for at least the past 18 months, yes. There are messages between her and Trevor going back 2 years. They never stopped seeing each other, Mr. Hayes. The bachelorette party wasn't a one-time mistake. It was just the first time she got caught. I flipped through the messages. Rachel and Trevor planning meetups, talking about playing the long game, discussing how much money they could extract from me in a divorce settlement. One message from Rachel to Trevor read, "He's so trusting it's almost sad. Another year, and we'll have everything we need." Trevor's response, "Just don't mess it up before the wedding. We're almost there. Why are you showing me this?" I asked Daniel. "You were hired by her attorney." "I was hired to find dirt on you," Daniel said. "Instead, I found evidence of fraud and conspiracy. I'm a licensed investigator, Mr. Hayes. I have an ethical obligation to report criminal activity when I discover it. What Rachel Langley was planning constitutes marriage fraud. You have grounds for a criminal complaint, not just a civil case." I sat back in my chair, processing everything. "What should I do?" "That's up to you," Daniel said. "But if it were me, I'd file a criminal complaint with the DA's office. Marriage fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, perjury for lying about shared assets. She could face serious charges." I took the folder home and called Stephen. He reviewed everything and whistled low. "Owen, this is bigger than I thought," Stephen said. "With this evidence, we can not only recover the $43,000 she stole, but we can also go after that hidden account. She lied about her assets when she signed the prenup. That makes the entire document voidable, but more importantly, it proves fraudulent intent. What do you recommend?" I asked. "File criminal charges," Stephen said without hesitation. "Let the DA handle the fraud case. We'll handle the civil recovery. Between the two, Rachel won't just lose money. She'll lose her freedom." That night, Dylan found me in my office, staring at the evidence. "Dad, what's wrong?" he asked. I told him everything. The hidden account, the messages, the plan to defraud me. Dylan's face went white. "She was playing you the whole time." "Looks like it," I said. "What are you going to do?" I looked at my son, thought about Emma crying on the phone, thought about Bob showing up to that dinner with dignity and bourbon. "I'm going to make sure she faces consequences," I said. "Not because I'm vindictive, but because what she planned to do was criminal. And people need to answer for their crimes, even if it means she goes to jail." Dylan asked. "Especially if it means that," I said, "because the next guy she does this to deserves to be protected too." The criminal trial took 14 months from filing to verdict. Rachel was charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, marriage fraud, and perjury. The evidence was overwhelming: the text messages, the hidden account, testimony from Trevor, who cut a deal to testify against her. She was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 18 months in a minimum security facility, plus 5 years probation and full restitution of all stolen funds, plus the hidden account. I didn't attend the sentencing. Stephen went in my place and called me afterward. "It's done," he said. "She'll serve probably 12 months with good behavior. After that, she has to pay you back every dollar, plus interest." "How much?" I asked. $263,000 total, Stephen said, "between what she stole, what she hid, and legal fees. Her wages will be garnished for the next decade at least." I hung up and felt nothing. No victory, no vindication. Just quiet. Dylan came home from his first year of college that weekend. He was studying computer science at UT Austin, doing well, dating Kayla seriously now. "Dad, I saw the news about Rachel's sentencing," he said over dinner. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "It's over. Finally. Do you ever regret how hard you went after her?" Dylan asked. I thought about it honestly. No, she wasn't just trying to cheat on me, Dylan. She was trying to destroy me, financially and emotionally. She had a plan, a timeline, a strategy. If I'd married her, I would have lost everything. Again, I protected myself, and probably protected other men she would have done this to in the future. That's pretty intense, Dad, Dylan said. Life is intense, I said. The question is whether you're prepared for it or not. I learned that lesson the hard way the first time. This time I was ready. Emma reached out to me once, about 8 months after the trial ended. She was 15 now, living with Bob full-time. Owen, I'm sorry, she wrote an email. I didn't know what my mom was really doing. Grandpa showed me some of the evidence from the trial. I understand now why you did what you did. I wrote back, Emma, you never have to apologize for your mother's actions. You're a good kid. Stay that way. And if you ever need anything, you can always reach out. She responded with a simple, thank you. I sold the townhouse a year after everything settled. Too many memories, too much weight. I bought a smaller place in a different neighborhood, started fresh. Michelle, my first ex-wife, sent me a card when she heard about the trial outcome. It said, you learned. I'm proud of you. That meant more than any court victory. I started dating again eventually, casually, no pressure. A woman named Sarah, a librarian with kind eyes and no drama. We took things slow, really slow. Dylan asked me once if I'd ever get married again. Maybe, I said. But if I do, it'll be to someone who proves themselves over years, not months. Someone who doesn't need a prenup because they'd never dream of betraying me. And if that person never comes along, that's okay too. I'd rather be alone and safe than partnered and vulnerable. That's pretty cynical, Dad, Dylan said. No, I said. That's wisdom. There's a difference. One evening, I was sitting on my new back porch, watching the sunset, when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I'm out. I did my time. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. For everything. Rachel. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. I hope you learned something. Don't contact me again. I blocked the number and set my phone down. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere in the city, Rachel was starting over, carrying the weight of her choices. Somewhere else, Trevor was probably running the same scam on someone new. But here, in my house, with my dignity intact and my future protected, I was free, and that was worth every difficult decision I'd made.